drives you? What inspires you? Let's ignite your why. Welcome back to Ignite Your Why podcast. I'm your host, Austin T. Gullett, and we're here to have genuine conversations with authentic people to help amplify their voice and figure out what ignites their why. Today's guest is a freelance photographer here in Cincinnati, Ohio. She is the owner of her own photography business, and she was born in Denton, Texas, but raised here in Northern Kentucky. She graduated from NKU in 2020 with her bachelor's degree in international studies. And on top of being a photographer, she is also a music artist and YouTube vlogger. So let's give a warm welcome to Erica Almquist. Erica, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. You nailed my last name, so everything's great.
Said it. I didn't say it confidently. I was like, I hope I said this right.
I get that. So real.
I was like, I'm gonna butcher this, but then I was like, that sounded right.
Yep, you nailed it.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great on this very cold and very windy day. It feels like we're in the tundra.
Man, the weather for the next week or so is going to be freezing.
I'm not ready.
I told my coworker, I was like, I'm not going into work on Tuesday if it's 12 degrees outside. I will work from home.
So real. Amen. That's what work from home is for. All right. We're going to hibernate. It's going to be great.
Because I hate the cold, and I don't know why I live in this area, because I feel like winters are just getting worse. And it's not like it snows and it's like a beautiful like sight. It is just freezing cold.
Just so cold.
And I walked out this morning with my dog, and I was like, oh hell no, Gabby, you better hurry up. Like it was a struggle. And then I had to take like garbage out, and I like was running.
Absolutely not. Oh my gosh.
Anyways, enough about the cold, because I feel like I could complain and rant about that for the longest time. But let's just hop right into this. So What is your story?
So my story, it's a little long-winded, so I'll keep this as short as possible. But I was born in Texas to two very introverted folks. They both were in music when they were younger. They were both classical musicians, and then they transitioned into administrative work in colleges. So that already explains a little bit about me, I think. But basically, we moved up to the Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area when I was about 4 or 5 years old. And from there, I fell in love with classical music as well. And so I was a violinist for about 13 years. I did the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, all that fun stuff. But I needed like a little hobby that wasn't about practicing 8 hours a day. So I picked up a camera, and I really enjoyed that aspect. I just loved the world of creating a whole new like universe in forms of photos. So when I first started taking photos, I really, really liked fine art photography. And that is really about like Photoshop heavy, creating a whole new sphere. And I did all this while being homeschooled, because it's unfortunate, but I was bullied a little bit in school. And I was like, Mom, please get me out of this situation because it's not great. Oh no. But it's also where I figured out in 3rd grade that I had crippling social anxiety. So that was fun. I had so much fun as a kid. but then, yeah, through high school, I was focusing on music because I was like, I'm going to be a classical musician. And then I got to college and I was like, I'm not going to be a classical musician. I'm going to be a photographer, and I'm going to go to Korea. So see you guys. And yeah. In college, I really wanted to just find somewhere where I could leave the country. So that was my MO with Northern Kentucky University. And from there, I spent 2 years in Korea, where I focused on Korean language studies and culture and photography. And then I'm back here 2 years later, and now I'm doing photography and music and stuff like that.
It's very interesting because I've never been out of the country. So what was that experience like for you after living in the States for probably 18, 19 years and then going to a completely different country that has a completely different culture and a completely different language. What was that like for you and how did you adjust?
Well, I knew that I wanted to study abroad because I wanted to have an experience outside of the United States. And I think that's really important for everybody to experience is like leaving their hometown. And so it was a choice between Bristol, like England, or South Korea. And I was like, there is a slight language barrier in London, England, Bristol, but I think Korea is going to be more challenging. And so once I went to Korea, I actually went once during the summertime with a class summer exchange program.
Mhm.
And it was only a month long, but it was so eye opening to me that I felt so kind of more at home there than I ever have here. And that's because a lot to do with personality types. I'm really onto like this personality um I guess looking within and like kind of owning my introvertedness right now. And I could really, really do that in Korea. Whereas here, I kind of felt like, I mean, in college, I would get picked on for being quiet. They'd be like, "You're so dangerous. You're so quiet. You don't tell us what you're thinking." And I'm like, "Well, I don't have anything to say at the moment. I'm just observing." And that was kind of more, I guess, praised in Korea. And so I
Mhm.
felt like I had kind of
Like blossomed
arrived
into
home.
like
Yeah,
being
that's
I
what it
think
felt like.
that's the biggest thing though, is I think sometimes when we step outside of our comfort zones is when we truly find ourselves and who we are as individuals. I say I'm an introvert, but I feel like I'm more of an ambivert. I have both
Ooh,
qualities where
love
it's just
that.
like I'm an observer. I feel like I'm learning to kind of be more, I guess, authentic with people because I feel like a lot of
Mhm.
the times I am quiet because I don't want people to judge me. And I don't
Oh,
know if that's like,
so true.
you know what I
So
mean? Where
real.
it's like, I feel like I'm annoying to people if I'm talking too much, or I feel like I'm
Same.
bothering this person if I'm doing X, Y, and Z. But in reality, I literally just had this conversation with my therapist like 2 days ago. So it's like fresh in my mind. But
Mhm.
in reality, it's because of like my anxiety is teaching me
Yeah.
that this is not acceptable.
Mhm.
So it's kind of retraining your brain because
Mhm.
it's hard. But she's like, "How do you know you're annoying them?" I was like, "I don't." She's like, "Did they say that?"
Yes.
I was like, "No."
No.
So I was like, it's all in my head mentally, and I think
I know.
it's because I'm introverted and kind of shy, but I feel like
Mhm.
once you get to know me, I don't shut up.
Oh, same. Same. It's really terrible. But it's actually great.
And people are like, If you just showed this side of you to everyone,
Mhm.
like they would love you." And I'm just like, That's scary." No,
That's
thank
so
you.
horrifying. Yeah, getting judged is like especially for because I can get judged on my art all day, every day. For some reason, I'm like, whatever. But being judged on your personality is like, I'm terrified.
But like, it's when you think of it, it's like, can we control that? No, I can't control what someone else thinks of me. I can't
Yes.
control what other people say about me or anything of that nature. And I hate that it's taken me 27 years to kind of realize this and
Same.
starting to figure it out. Because if I would have known this at like 17, 18 years old, I would have been like,
Ooh, I would have been unstoppable. I would have been such a problem if I
But,
was like that
right?
ruthless now. Woo! If I didn't care, wow, the things I would get done.
But that's just not how life works. Life be
Nope.
lifing.
Life really do be lifing. It's not, yeah.
Eh.
Eh.
So I do have one more question for you,
Mhm,
and I'm very curious about this because it's very interesting when people say they're homeschooled. What was that
mhm,
like for you, and how did you experience that? Because I feel like when I went to public school, like I was very exposed to a lot of things, and I was able to like interact with kids my age. But what was that like for you being homeschooled for all those years?
well, I actually went to school until I was in 5th grade.
Hmm.
Um, And I really think that I got like a probably the best education I could have asked for, because it wasn't like my mom was my teacher. She tried for 6th and 7th grade, and then she was like, "Mm, we need a boundary, this is not good." So my mom's an excellent teacher, just not for me. But I really thrived once we switched over to a kind of online schooling. And so I interacted with people my age all the time. It was just through the screen, which is really ironic because now I'm definitely like an internet kid through and through. But I actually met one of my best friends this way through like an online class, because we'd be messing around like, "Wah, wah, wah, what's the teacher saying?" Like in the background chatting. And then we met in person. I realized that sounds a little sketchy now. I'm like, oh, that could have ended really badly, but it ended up great. So I did. I met a lot of really amazing people that way, and I went to orchestra like once a week and hung out with those people too. So my sister actually went to public school, and she'd get so mad at me because she'd be like, "You have more friends than I do," and I was like, I don't know.
I'm just cooler than you. I'm kidding. I'm sorry if you're listening to this.
Oh no, she's way cooler. She's literally a pilot in the Air Force. I'm just a photographer. I'm like,
Don't
wow.
diminish yourself. Do not diminish yourself, because what you do is amazing and the work you do is phenomenal and you should be proud of it.
Oh my gosh, you're literally just such a light. I just need to bottle this up and like keep it with me all the time.
I think it's so easy for us to compare ourselves to other people and diminish the things that we're doing, but your story is unique to you and your journey is unique to you. So, yes, your sister may be doing X, Y, and Z, but take a step back and realize all the shit that you're doing. Like, you're doing
True.
amazing and you're killing it. And it's just a different path and a different journey, and things come at different times. So, it's just changing the mindset, Erica. You got to
Damn.
change that mindset.
You are so good. Oh my gosh, please. I'll just
Thank
start
you.
weeping.
No, so I kind of want to go into this next segment here because I feel like it's going to take up a chunk of this podcast because it's about your passion. So, what is it that inspires you? But more importantly, what is it that ignites your why?
I've been thinking about this a lot recently, actually. So this is so funny. But especially for photography, I am so focused on I want to show people in their most confident state. And so that's my goal with photography, is like I just want people to feel confident, especially women. I photograph a lot of women, but because I think in society we're kind of told to like kind of like dim our light and like don't outshine, don't be too confident because you'll be so arrogant. Nobody likes
Hmm.
arrogant people. But I kind of like to flip that on its head and be like, no, here's people being badasses, and like here's their fashion sense. And so I think with photography I like to highlight other people's power a lot. And then with my music, I kind of take the front stage, and if that's the right term, I like to take the stage. What is that called? I like to take the spotlight a little bit, and then it's about me harnessing my power and taking my power back. So I like to do both, and that's kind of my why. Is I just like to I like vulnerability. I love it, and I like to highlight vulnerability as well because I think that's really important. But
Hmm.
more so, I like to highlight people's power. So that's kind of my thing right now.
I mean, your pictures are amazing. I see them on social media. I'm just like, damn, she has the eye of a photographer.
Oh my
And
god,
I
thank you.
feel like portrait photography is probably one of the harder photography like aspects to do.
Oh,
Just
really?
it's just like because I feel like you can do a portrait and it can be really bad. You know what I
True.
mean?
So true.
Whereas like
Yep.
where if you're doing more so like sports photography or nature photography, it's a little bit
Mhm.
different. But when you're just doing portraits, and I think I'm a perfectionist, so I feel like when you do portraits,
Feel
they
that.
have to kind of be like they gotta hit.
That is one thing in 2023. I like, all right, we're done with the perfectionist mindset, because if I had that mindset, I would never release anything. Like I have a
Hmm.
severe problem with it. Like I will just sit on a project until it's perfect. And then I was like, wait a second, nothing can be perfect. Yikes.
It's true because I feel like when you're aiming for perfection, you're setting the bar so high that
Yeah.
it's most of the time unattainable.
Yep.
Because you can tweak things, change things, edit things, and you might like it in the moment, and then 2 hours later, you're just like, don't like it anymore." That's how
That is the
quick
story in
things
my
can
life.
change, and I think the thing is getting to a point where we're comfortable being uncomfortable and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that everything I do isn't going to be perfect, but it's my best. And my
Mm-hmm.
best, if I'm putting out my best work every single time, then I did my job.
Hell yeah. That's kind of my mindset in 2024. So I love that. I feel like there's something else I had to answer and I just don't just boop doop
You're
doop off
good.
on
You're
a different
good.
tangent.
My question for you is just like you said, like you picked up a camera at such a young age. But what was it that truly made you fall in love with this and run with it and get to where you are now?
um I I like I said, I'm an introvert, so I'm really shy. And I really was drawn to this thing that could tell my story for me in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
So, like I said, I did a lot of fine art back in the day. So I followed a lot of really talented photographers. And all of their names just left my head all of a sudden, but they're all so amazing. They would just, I think Joel Robinson, if I remember correctly, he would just put himself in like little bottles and then write these really intricate like storylines to go along with the photos. And I was just so like enamored with this way of like, oh my gosh, you don't have to like always be telling your story. Your art can do it for you. And so I was just so completely, I fell in love with it. I was like, oh, yes, say less. As an introvert, it can say all the words for me. And so that's how I kind of fell in love with photography. But when I first picked up a camera, I didn't really know that I wanted to do it. Like my friends were kind of getting interested in it, and I
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, I don't know if that's really for me." And then I like took a picture of a pine cone, and I literally posted it on the internet. Like that's my first picture was a pine cone, and I was like, "This is the greatest thing I have ever seen in my life. The greatest pine cone." And then from there, I was like, "Okay, maybe not pine cones. Maybe we should switch to people pictures." So it was like a weird transition from pine cones to people. But we're here now. So the pine cone
Hey,
worked.
I think it's the beginning is always interesting because it's unknown, it's foreign, it's something that you're trying to figure out. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the beauty of life. Like when you think of
So
it,
true.
because life is just unexpected. You never know what's going to happen. And I think
That's for
when you're
sure.
going through your passions, it always evolves and it always changes. I feel
Oh,
like
100%.
we go through spurts where we're just like, I don't want to do this anymore, or like this is very overwhelming. And you just have to take a step back and take a break, which is okay.
Yes.
I feel people always try to push through
Mm-hmm.
the hard times, which you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it's also okay to take a step back and think, I'm not okay.
Yes.
This isn't fun right now.
Yeah.
But it's taking that deeper dive and figuring out, why did I start this in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
I did it for a reason. And I think sometimes we just lose sight of why we began in the first place, which causes us to
That's
get
so true.
overwhelmed and burnt out and overworked. Takes balance. I think that's what people don't understand is you have to have balance in the things that you're doing. You can be passionate about something and do it all the time, but if you're not
Yeah.
taking that break, you will get overwhelmed and you will get tired of it. So
And that
take
happened to me.
yeah, take your breaks. Take them.
Yes.
They're worth it. Do other things. Your passion's always going to be there because I'm telling you, if like I had to do this podcast 24/7, it would be exhausting. You know what I mean?
I know
Because
exactly
if
what you mean.
I'm podcasting 24/7 and this is my full time job, which is what I want it to be eventually, but
Yeah.
I know I can't just make it a podcast. I have to
Mm-hmm.
make it bigger than a podcast. I have to do other
Amen.
things outside of that because I have a brand. I can build this brand and do different aspects and different avenues with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we just get so caught up in this one thing that we want to do and forget that there's so much potential in the things we're doing. Like I want to be like I already posted it, so like I want to write a book. I want to
Oh, I
become
would
a
read the hell out
speaker.
of that. Yes.
Thank you. I like, and that's the thing is when I want Ignite Your Why to be where I want it to be, it
Mhm.
started with a podcast, and now I'm like, okay, where can we grow and how can I make this bigger than what it already is? So those are my
Hell yeah.
avenues. And I'm sorry to take away from you and started talking
No,
about myself.
we need more moments like this because I mean, also it's so important to speak it into existence. I'm all about the power of words, so that it's all gonna happen now. I'm so happy. I can't wait to
I'm
see it.
determined. I've already started, and it's exciting. It's very therapeutic for me. It's kind of like for you when you say like you're telling your story through pictures. I like to
Mhm.
tell mine through words, written words, I should
Yes,
say,
written word is also so important too.
because it's harder for me to express emotions verbally. I feel,
Mhm. Same.
but when I get a pen and a paper, or just like the notes app on my phone,
Yeah.
I can go ham on those. Like I just be going
Ooh.
away. And I think I got to a point where when I was younger, I kind of lost that aspect where I was just like I stopped writing. And then when I
I hate when that
started again, I
happens.
was like, oh, this is so therapeutic.
Gosh, so are we getting a book in like soon or what's the vibe?
Um I'm hoping this is like the hope that it's like towards the end of this year, if not early
That soon?
2020 or not
Oh
early
my.
2025. I'm determined. Once I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it. So
Wait, sorry. Have we talked about this? What's your sign?
I'm a Taurus.
Taurus. Oh my god. That actually explains a lot. Okay, I love that.
A May,
Also,
a May Taurus, the better one.
the best one, honestly, let's be real. But oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Oh my god, I would read like your book just front to cover one
we
day and then
we
I'd
can
read it
talk
again the next
offline
day.
about it more because I don't want to give too much away.
Okay, all right.
But I kind of want to ask this question because I'm curious now.
Okay.
Earlier, I mentioned that you were a YouTube vlogger. And when I was creeping on you to do your bio, I
Mhm.
noticed some of them. I didn't watch them, but what got you in the mind of vlogging your life and just giving people like bits and pieces of a day of a life of you?
So I feel like life is moving so quickly right now. For me, I don't know if ever since the pandemic, I'm sorry, the pandemic, I don't know what else we should call it, but the time that was horrible. I feel like time has just been going out of control so fast. And so I was trying to figure out how to slow it down at least a little bit for myself. And I realized just like it forces you to be so in the moment. Like
Hmm.
to set up a camera and be like, all right, we're going to talk about something or we're going to work on the condo, we're going to work on a song. It forces you to like sit down and be like, I am consciously making an effort to be in this moment because I'm filming it. So that was the whole goal. I wasn't sure if it was going to work. And then once I started doing it, I was like, oh my God. And like, I actually, in the moment, this is crazy. And also, I just love editing. I love video editing. So it's really just a selfish reason for me to video edit again.
It's not
So.
selfish. I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful, and like when you explain it that way, because a lot of the times we don't live in the moment. We're so worried about what's next or what's going to happen in the future that we don't just embrace what's in the now.
Mhm.
And I think it's crazy because I've always wanted to vlog like
You
a
should.
day
Oh
a
my
day in the
gosh.
life of just like what it looks like to record and things of that nature and how I
Oh, I
prepare and just
love that
behind the
idea.
scenes things. So we'll talk offline. Like I said, we're gonna have a lot of
Ooh.
offline conversations.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
Because I think it's just very beautiful that when you talk about creativity, you can see
Mhm.
like the joy and
Mhm.
the spark in you because it's just
Oh, thank you.
and when we had our photo session for my 10,000 downloads, by the way, shout out to you
Congratulations
for
again, by
the
the way.
amazing photos. I could tell like your passion in it, and I think that's
Mhm.
what just makes me warm inside because I love seeing people do what they do. And when you
Mhm.
were in your moment, I was like, this is her element.
Yeah.
And it just made me, I was like, I have to get her on the podcast. I have to get her on. Because
Oh.
I was curious because everyone's journey is unique. Everyone's journey is different.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people are trying to get into the photography business.
Mhm.
So my question for you is just how did you figure out your brand? How did you figure out your brand? And how did you figure out that this was the business that you wanted to do? And how did you create the model you're currently working with?
So I actually started my business when I was 16 years old. And the sole reason was I didn't like working for other people. I realized that really quickly. I was like,
Period.
oof, I have a problem a little bit with authority. Ooh. Like, I'm really good to my parents, but like, ooh, sometimes people telling me what to do. So I was like, I need something where I can work for myself. And that was the whole basis of it. And oh my god, my brain just left the building. Sorry, can you ask the question one more time so I can rein her back?
No, I was just curious of like how you started your business and how you came up with the current model you're working
Okay.
with.
All right, sorry about that. So the current model that I'm working with and my brand, I kind of solidified it once I went to Korea because when I was in the United States 16 through 21, I was just kind of taking any job,
Mhm,
any sort of like photography job. And when I went to Korea, I really fell in love with fashion photography. And that's where I really worked with, and I did here too as well. Shallon Sabino, who's now kind of like she's a jet setter. She does her thing. She off doing a million things. She's incredible, but she's a wonderful model. And we kind of like built our own brands together. And it was really exciting because when we went to Korea, then I was able to like work with some other fashion photographers.
mhm,
And that's where I really learned, oh, fashion photography is for me. This is my thing. And from there, once I got back to the States, I actually really sat down. This is the nerdy side of business that you don't really talk about enough, but I worked on my business model and I did a long form version of that. And I sat down and I was like, what makes me unique? Like what is unique about me? And I like sat and looked at the competition and I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's so talented. So I had to like sit there. It's not glamorous, but I sat and I worked on a business model. And from there, I've been really working on just adding to that business model, but also
mhm.
taking it away. Like, I can't be everything for everybody. And every day, I'm like working on it and figuring out, growing, and solidifying my brand. And I'm doing the same thing with music now. I just worked on my own business model for music. So, yeah, that's my long-winded answer. It's just a lot of business side and yeah.
I like it because I feel a lot of times entrepreneurship looks so sexy to people, but they don't understand the intricacies and the back end of everything, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Because
100%.
it's it doesn't just happen overnight. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think it takes time to sit down and figure out what am I trying to do here?
Yeah.
Because I feel once you have a target audience and you have your kind of niche of what you want to do, it makes
Mhm.
things a lot easier. And it takes time. And I feel as we grow, our businesses will evolve as well. And you don't want to put yourself in a box because once you put yourself in a box, you're kind of stuck. And
Mhm.
it makes it interesting to see how you're like, I thought, like, how am I unique? But then you were like, I was looking at other people. And
Yep.
that's where we always fuck up is like,
Yep.
when we compare ourselves to what someone else is doing,
Mhm.
I feel like I said this when you were talking about your sister, but when we compare ourselves, it's easy to get discouraged because
Yes.
you don't know what their journey was like. You don't know what they went through to get to where they are. They could have struggled for years before they had their one moment
Mhm.
that kind of took them off and made them flourish. And
Mhm.
your journey is unique. You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, you're going to have your struggles, but it's consistency. Just because we
Yeah.
fail doesn't mean give up. Every lesson that we learn, like every loss that we have, every fumble we have, whatever it is, whatever that is, you're going to have a lesson out of it. But it's how do you take it and run with it? Because I can take my losses and dwell on them and be like, ah, fuck this. I'm just gonna give up. But in
Mhm.
reality, It's like, okay, what didn't work? Let's change that mindset
Yes.
when we mess up or when we fail to think, okay, what did I do wrong? Like, what didn't work and how can I fix it? Because it doesn't happen overnight. Like,
Mhm.
like, even with this podcast, I've adjusted it as I've done it over the last 2 or 3 years, where it's like, okay, I started it this way. I
Mhm.
still ask the same questions. That didn't change. But I think the way I conduct the conversations has changed. The way I promote the
Yeah.
conversations has changed. We now have video. So it's like
So
you
cool.
evolve as time goes on and you figure out
Mhm.
what works, what doesn't. And that's just the business model. And people think being an entrepreneur is just the easiest thing. But when you think of all the stuff on the back end, it's exhausting. It's
Yeah.
tiring.
And what's interesting is I minored in entrepreneurship, so I had a lot of classes in this exact conversation where it's just like the creative aspect is great, but it's the back end that and the consistency, as you said,
Hmm.
that will propel you forward. And I failed before. I went through a really rough burnout for 2 years. I thought about quitting. I thought about selling my photography equipment and being like, sayonara, I'm not good at this anymore. And then it was a big break from social media, not comparing myself to other photographers, because as you said, all of our journeys are so different and so unique. So once I distanced myself, I was able to like be like, oh, this is why I'm doing it, because I am really good at this actually. Okay, got it.
When you take a step back and you think of who am I and what is my why, it's incredible because
Hmm.
we all have that purpose. And I will never ever not harp on it about how when you compare, you're just doing yourself a disservice.
Hmm.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I've done it. I've done it with this podcast. I have done it with this podcast where I'm like, why is this person's podcast doing better than mine? How are they doing this? How are they doing that? But I'm like, when I take a step back, I had to think, what am I not doing? Why?
Hmm.
Because my growth is up to me, essentially. What am I doing to promote this? What am I
Love
doing to
that.
make this better? Because yes, they might have more plays than me. They might do this better than me, but how can I grow and make what I'm doing better? And I think that was the mindset
That's beautiful.
change.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that really speaks to me. I'm so dead. That's amazing.
Because it's true. I think it's so common for us to do, especially when society makes us compare
Yeah.
because of social media.
Oh, I was gonna say because
Social
social
media is a
media.
highlight reel. I don't think people realize that.
I don't think that they do, honestly.
Because
Even
who
my
posts their
vlogs are
failures?
too.
Who posts their failures?
I mean,
Honestly.
nobody wants to see me like crying on my couch, being like, "Oh my god, I might
But
not be able to eat this month."
that's real. Like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I think that's what I'm trying to be more of is more
Mhm. I love that.
authentic and giving people the
100%.
good and the bad because I
Mhm.
struggle. I do. And it's not easy. I'm never
Mhm.
going to say it's easy, but I also feel there's strength in showing the struggle because
Oh, 100%.
who knows if someone else can relate to you,
Mhm.
because by me sharing a piece of my story or me sharing my struggles or anything of that nature, someone could be like, damn, I relate to Austin so much
Mhm.
because I'm going through something so similar. And
Yeah.
if they can do it, then I can too. And that's why I do this podcast.
Oh my
That's why
gosh,
I
that's so
have people tell their stories because you never know who you can be your survival guide for just by sharing a piece of your story. And I think
low key.
that's
I'm
the
like, I kind of want a podcast just so I can interview you. Just not to interview other people, just Austin. Interviews with Austin. That's what I'll call it. You're so knowledgeable. You can tell you've lived a lot of life. A lot of life. Yeah.
I'm only 27, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, I don't mean that to say that, oh, you look old. I mean, like, you are wise. You're wise beyond your years. That's incredible.
Yeah, people tell me that all the time because my mentor actually told me when I was like 18, he's like, if I was as wise as you were at this age,
Mhm.
who knows where I would be? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always thought logical and didn't make impulse decisions. And I've been that analyzer. tell people all the time
Same.
is I feel like I had a choice growing up. I could have gone down two different paths, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because growing up where I'm from, it's a lot of like drugs, and there's
Yep.
a lot of violence, and I've seen that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've could have easily hung out with those kids and smoked weed and drank and went to parties, but I chose not to. I chose a different path. I chose education. I chose
Why do you think that
sports.
you chose that path? What made you feel like you didn't want to follow that path?
I wanted out,
Mm-hmm.
right? I wanted to like make it out of Covington. And it's crazy because I just had that conversation on my last
So
episode where it's like, it's not that I necessarily wanted out of Covington.
weird.
I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be out of the stereotypes of people from Covington, and the
True. Me and Covington,
stereotypes,
like, yeah.
yeah, then the stereotypes of people that went to Holmes High School, because people think, oh, you went to Holmes, like
Oh,
that's a terrible school, things of that nature, and
yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
not the case. Like it's what you make
Yeah.
it, and I think that's what drove me is like I always wanted to prove people wrong, and I think I got that from sports, right? Because when I was
I
playing
love
sports, I was always ridiculed of like doing things wrong, and I wanted to like be better, and
that.
I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of took that and ran with it in everything that I did. Like I wanted to get all A's. I wanted to be better than what my brother was. So it's like I
I
always
love that.
had those like little motivational like aspects. So it was very interesting to me because it wasn't that, because obviously I am still in Covington, right? You know
Same.
what I mean? Like I love Covington, but
Yeah.
it's also just who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you
Mm-hmm.
talking to? Are you making the right connections? Are you making the right decisions? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're the ones living in those decisions. We make them for
Yeah.
ourselves, and we can't blame someone else for something we did or something we said, because in reality, we're the ones who made that decision. So we have to live
Amen.
with it.
Oh my gosh. We're really just like on the same wavelength here. I'm like, wow. Oh my gosh. This is great.
So I kind of want to move on to my favorite segment here.
Okay.
I love, love, love talking about mental health. So my question for you, Erica, is just how have you been taking care of yourself mentally?
Well, one of the best things I ever did was find a therapist. I actually had two a while ago because
Too.
I went through a really bad uh, I was in a relationship with a narcissist.
Hmm.
I'll put it that way. It was really eye-opening. I learned a lot about myself, and in that my mental health was the lowest it's ever been. And I realized I was like, this is either going to take a really bad ending or I'm going to get help and get out of the situation. So, I come from two baby boomer parents who, let's just say that therapy is for the weak. All right, we'll put it that way. That's the mindset that I grew up with. But once I kind of got around that mindset and I saw that there's so much power in like taking control of your mental health and like, because I do have some people pleasing tendencies, and maybe I have my own narcissistic tendencies. I've learned this a lot, and I'm very self aware of it. But I think it really matters what you do. And so for me, my mental health, like self care, is definitely therapy. And then also just, I recently started meditation. All of these, my parents would hear this and be like, "Oh my god, what? What?" And I'm just like, "Guys, it's fine. I'm in my best mental health state right now." So, meditation, therapy, also just no social media. There are some days where I literally delete Instagram from my phone and I be lawing around in the real world, and it's so nice. So great.
I'm curious now because I think therapy is amazing. I love my
Mhm.
therapist. Um, but what was it like having two? I can't imagine what that would be like. I feel like it would be very hard for me to have two different therapists probably telling me two different things. So how did you do that?
Actually, it was really beneficial because I had one therapist who was very analytical, very logical,
Mhm.
and would tell me, "Hey, you need to not do this. Hey, you need to get out of this situation." Like very straightforward, very almost
Direct.
parental and direct. And
Yeah.
so it's just somebody who was like, "This is what I think straight thought for you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is a bad situation. You need to leave it. And then I had another one who was kind of like, okay, now let's talk about how that made you feel. And I was like, it was such, actually, it really balanced me out because I was able to get really like cry over here and then cry and then be like, all right, what's the game plan?
Yeah.
And I would not suggest this for anybody who doesn't have the money because it's very expensive. But it was a dire situation, if you will. It was, my mental health was, it was, yeah, there were some situations where I was like, I think that it is now time to get severe help. And so I wouldn't necessarily go back to 2 therapists, sticking to my one, but in that
Hey,
situation, it was necessary.
I think it's very interesting that you said that
Mhm.
because I can see it. Because if someone's telling you straight up, like, this is my analysis, this is what you should do, and someone's like, oh, tell me more. And it's
Mhm.
like you get the feeling aspect over here, and then you get the logical aspect over here. And I'm glad it
Yes.
worked out for you because it is interesting. And therapy can be expensive, which is why I'm blessed that I have my therapist who is very, very cheap.
Oh, we're gonna have to talk offline about this person.
Yes,
Who
we
is it?
should.
Who is it?
But I think a lot of people see therapy as a weakness. But
Mhm.
when I have these conversations, I believe that the millennial Gen Z generation is making it acceptable
Yes.
because we're not afraid to talk about it. And I think
Mhm.
that's just how society's changing. I think
Yes.
we're breaking social norms. I feel like our generations are very go getters, and we're not
Mhm.
going to deal with people's shit. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's why you said, like, I can't work for someone who has like authority over me because
Mhm.
it's hard to just, like, I know I do a damn good job, right? And I'm going to do the best job I can do. But if I'm not learning or if I'm not
Mhm.
growing, people are always like, you should stay for like 5 years.
I hate that. I
If
hate
I'm
that
if
mindset.
if I'm bored, I'm leaving.
I'm
Like,
like, I'm gonna
period.
scoot out.
Like, you know what I
Mm-mm.
mean? Because if I'm not learning, if I'm not growing, if I'm not getting better from this situation, then why am I staying here?
Yes. Exactly. Oh my gosh. See, you definitely get it, Austin. Wow.
You
Oh
know
my
what I
gosh.
mean? Because it doesn't
I know
make
exactly what you
sense.
mean.
It
It
does not make
doesn't.
sense. You want me to stay here at a job that I'm really good at, but not growing in any aspect anymore?
Mhm.
I'm doing myself a disservice.
Exactly.
I'm so young. Like, I have so much life to live. Why would I want to be stuck here, unhappy, not
Exactly.
learning, not growing, not expanding my knowledge when I know there's so much out there?
That's
That's where
actually
I'm
the
at.
situation I'm in right now with my current job because I also work a 9 to 5. Because, like I said, the pandemic was a little difficult on the
Right.
financial situation. So I literally, I'm in that same situation right now, and I'm kind of stuck between, risk, like take, like actually be
Yeah.
this photographer, like full time, like all the time, or, stay here and like just be unhappy because the
Don't be
job market also
comfortable.
is tough.
Don't be comfortable. Expand
Exactly.
your horizons. Take the risk because what's the worst thing that happens? You have to find a new job. Like,
Boo-hoo,
you know what I mean? But like, and people are like, oh, there's so many jobs out there. Ma'am or
Man.
sir. When you're applying for jobs and they want 5, 10 years of experience
Yes.
for entry level jobs, that's not an entry level job.
That's not, thank you. I was just having this conversation yesterday. I
Like,
was like,
what?
what were we supposed to do? Work a 9 to 5 and go to college at this? I'm confused. I'm
It's
so
so
confused.
frustrating because finding a job is, you would think it's so easy. Like, I could work at
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's,
Hell yeah.
but I have a
Go for
fucking
it.
master's degree. I'm not working at like
Oh,
some,
you have a master's degree.
yeah.
She's smart, guys. She's
But like,
smart.
you know what I mean though? Is like, I have
Mm-hmm.
these degrees, but trying to find a job within your degree is not as easy as it seems, guys.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
It's
So
very,
hard.
especially right now, I think it's just there's so many jobs, but it's like they and they have way too many qualifications, number one. And then number
Hmm.
two, we come in and we're like, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to sit down and grow and learn. And you can
Go
mold
get her,
me,
you know?
right? But then they're like, no, we just need you to come in and just immediately know how to do exactly everything. And I'm like, I just
But
don't.
no one knows everything. And I think that's the thing is why I've sat on interviews before,
Mhm,
and it's my mindset is like, okay, this person has 5 years of experience, but this person's right out of college and eager to learn and eager to
mhm,
grow, where they might not have bad habits that this person might have. You know what I mean? Because if you're doing something for 5 to 10 years, you're in your way. So
mhm.
maybe your way is not great. Maybe I do want someone who doesn't have as much experience that I can kind of
Mhm.
teach and kind of show them how to do what I want them to do. But
Yeah.
it's also just, I think I was just in a fucking terrible situation because I
Mhm.
graduated when the pandemic happened.
Oh, same.
So by the time the pandemic's over, right,
Mhm.
you're applying for jobs, but so many people lost their jobs that you have people with 15, 20 years of experience applying
Yeah.
to the same jobs that you're applying to. I
Mhm.
vividly remember I had a rejection phone call. I didn't even get an interview, right?
Mhm.
They called me to tell me I wasn't getting an interview. But they're like,
Dear Lord,
but they
it's
were just
cold.
like, but they told me they're just like, your resume was amazing, but there's just so many other people that applied that have more experience.
Yep,
And
that's what I got a lot of too.
I was just like, but I'm young and ready. Like I want this.
Exactly. Like, mold me, use me. Oh, don't use me. But, like, come on.
No, I
Oh my
definitely
god.
get it. And I think it's just interesting how life works. And
Mhm,
I sit here and tell my mom all the time, it's like, it's not as easy as it seems. Like I've applied
mhm.
to jobs before and never heard a thing.
Yep.
Like
Oh, yeah.
months, or then you'll just get a random email like a month and a half later. Oh, thank you for your interest. We decided to go in a different direction.
It's insane.
Solid.
You're
Like
like, "Thank you so much."
I would have rather you not said anything because I forgot I applied to your I
Exactly.
forgot I even applied at this
I
point.
know, and then you're like, "Oh, perfect. Bring that up again. Alright."
I'm not good enough. I'm kidding.
You are good enough, Austin. You're more than good enough. Hey, at least you have your master's. I was like, I gave up on school after like my bachelor because it took me so long to get
But
my
you also like you were in undergrad when COVID happened, right? I
Yeah.
graduated from NKU in 2018 and went straight into my master's program at Xavier,
Oh wow.
and I finished in December of 2019. So
Okay.
I didn't have to go through the process of like school shutting down and going online. I went through
Mhm.
school, but I was supposed to walk for my Xavier graduation in May
Oh
because they only had one.
yeah.
But it
Mhm.
was still like I got a job at FC Cincinnati, and then
Oh.
literally 3 months later, I lost that job at FC Cincinnati. But then 10 months later, I was brought back to FC Cincinnati. So there were because like the pandemic,
Interesting.
they eliminated my. I worked in community relations, so there
Okay.
really wasn't anything in
Any
the
community relations.
community things to do. So it made sense.
Makes
I
sense.
understood it.
Yeah.
So once it was time to kind of like get back to normalcy, went back.
Mhm.
But it was just interesting to kind of see how everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And
Yeah, I didn't even know that I graduated. I was literally signing up for classes in the spring. They're like, "You don't go here." And I was like, "What?" And then I found out that I graduated that December and never found out. So it was very anticlimactic for me.
congratulations, though.
Congratulations to me.
It's like London Tipton, yay me!
Yay me.
No, but I just wanted to say thank you for
Mhm.
taking the time out of your day to hop on the
Thank you,
pod.
Austin.
I appreciate you. If anyone wants to continue having a conversation with you about anything that we talked about today, or if they just want to check out your photography, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So I would suggest my Instagram, number one, Erica.Almquist. But if you're curious about the music times, oh officially Erica, both on Instagram, or you can just Erica Almquist on YouTube, and you can get a real up close and personal experience with me, and also listen to some music. So there we go.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to put all of Erica's information in the description below. If you all happen to reach out to her, please just make a note on how you found her. We will greatly appreciate it. And do not forget to follow us on all social media platforms. It's at Ignite Your Why. That's INGYTE, not with an I. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, we are there. So make sure you give us a follow. Again, thank you all for tuning in. And always remember, find your purpose, ignite your why, and I'll holler at you guys later. Peace.